Revolutionary Echoes, From Sankara's Vision to Traoré's Reality. The ghost of revolution haunts Burkina Faso. 4 decades after Thomas Sankara's assassination silenced one of Africa's most electrifying voices, his revolutionary spirit has found new life in the hands of Ibrahim Traoré, a 37-year-old military captain who has shattered the political establishment and reignited the flames of Burkinabe nationalism. The connection between these two leaders isn't merely coincidental. It represents a profound ideological resurrection that threatens to reshape not only Burkina Faso, but the entire trajectory of African liberation movements. What happens when revolutionary ideas refuse to die? The answer lies within the pages of Thomas Sankara Speaks, The Burkina Faso Revolution, 1983-87, a collection that has become the political Bible for a new generation of African revolutionaries. This isn't just a book, it's a manifesto of resistance, a blueprint for transformation, and perhaps most dangerously for Western interests, a roadmap to genuine independence that has found its most dedicated student in Ibrahim Traoré. The prophet of African revolution, Thomas Sankara, didn't merely lead Burkina Faso, he transformed it from a forgotten colonial outpost into a beacon of revolutionary possibility. Thomas Sankara Speaks captures the raw intensity of a leader who dared to challenge everything, from French neocolonialism to gender oppression, from environmental destruction to economic dependency. The book reveals a man who understood that revolution isn't just about changing governments, it's about fundamentally reimagining society itself. The collection showcases Sankara's uncompromising vision through his most powerful speeches and writings between 1983 and 1987. These weren't the calculated words of a typical politician. They were the battle cries of a revolutionary who believed that Africa's liberation required nothing less than complete transformation. Every page pulses with the urgency of a leader who knew his time was limited, but his mission was eternal. Sankara's anti-imperialist stance was absolutely ruthless. He didn't merely criticize Western exploitation. He systematically dismantled the mechanisms of neocolonial control. His speeches reveal a leader who understood that true independence meant rejecting the very foundations of the global economic system that kept Africa subjugated. When he declared that debt is a cleverly managed reconquest of Africa, he wasn't making rhetoric. He was exposing the financial chains that bound the continent. The book's treatment of women's liberation demonstrates Sankara's revolutionary comprehensiveness. He didn't view gender equality as a side issue, but as fundamental to African revolution. His government's banning of female genital mutilation, polygamy, and forced marriages wasn't gradualist reform. It was radical social surgery designed to obliterate centuries of oppression. Sankara understood that you cannot liberate a society while half its population remains enslaved. Environmental consciousness permeates every aspect of Sankara's revolutionary program, documented in the book. His massive reforestation campaigns and sustainable development initiatives weren't fashionable green politics. They were survival strategies for a continent facing ecological devastation. Sankara grasped that environmental destruction and neocolonialism were inseparably linked, understanding that a degraded environment meant permanent dependency. The economic philosophy revealed in Thomas Sankara Speaks was revolutionary in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications for global capitalism. Sankara's promotion of local production, rejection of conditional aid, and advocacy for debt resistance created a comprehensive alternative to the Washington Consensus. Decades before, it became fashionable to criticize neoliberalism. His vision of economic self-reliance wasn't isolationism, it was strategic independence. The student becomes the master. Enter Ibrahim Traoré, Sankara's most dangerous disciple. When this young military captain seized power in September 2022, he didn't just stage another African coup, he resurrected a revolutionary tradition that Western powers thought they had buried with Sankara's assassination. Traoré's represents something far more threatening than typical military intervention. It signals the return of genuine revolutionary consciousness to African politics. The parallels are absolutely striking and deliberately cultivated. Like Sankara, Traoré came to power as a young military officer promising to break the chains of neocolonialism. Like his predecessor, he has embraced Pan-African rhetoric and positioned himself as a champion of continental liberation. Most significantly, Traoré has explicitly invoked Sankara's legacy, understanding that he leads not just Burkina Faso, but carries the torch of African revolution. Traoré's anti-Western stance has been uncompromising and strategically brilliant. His decision to expel French troops and pivot toward Russia and China isn't merely tactical. It represents a fundamental rejection of the entire post-colonial order. When he declares that Burkina Faso will never again be a colony, he's channeling Sankara's absolute refusal to accept African subservience. This isn't diplomacy, it's ideological warfare. The young president's approach to regional security demonstrates how Sankara's ideas have evolved for contemporary challenges. Traoré hasn't just fought jihadist insurgency, he's reframed it as part of a broader struggle against neocolonial control. His formation of military alliances with Mali and Niger represents the practical application of Sankara's Pan-African vision, creating a confederation of resistance that threatens to destabilize the entire Sahel's colonial arrangements. Economically, Traoré has pursued policies that would make Sankara proud. His government's focus on local production, resource sovereignty, and rejection of conditional Western aid directly mirrors the economic philosophy outlined in Thomas Sankara Speaks. When Traoré speaks of economic sovereignty, he's not using empty slogans. He's implementing a comprehensive strategy for breaking financial dependency. The revolutionary legacy lives. The connection between Sankara's writings and Traoré's actions reveals something profound about revolutionary consciousness. Ideas don't die with their creators. They hibernate in the collective memory until conditions become ripe for their resurrection. Thomas Sankara Speaks didn't merely preserve historical speeches. It maintained a revolutionary flame that has now ignited a new generation of African leaders. What makes this connection so powerful is its authenticity. Traoré isn't simply borrowing Sankara's rhetoric for political convenience. He appears to have internalized the revolutionary vision documented in the book. His policies, international positioning, and domestic reforms all demonstrate a coherent ideological framework that draws directly from Sankara's revolutionary blueprint. The book's emphasis on revolutionary internationalism finds perfect expression in Traoré's contemporary foreign policy. Sankara's support for liberation movements worldwide has evolved into Traoré's strategic alliances with other anti-Western governments. The young president understands that African liberation requires global solidarity against imperial domination. Perhaps most significantly, both leaders share an understanding that revolution requires sacrifice. Sankara's writings reveal a man who knew that challenging the global order might cost him his life. And it did. Traoré operates with similar revolutionary courage, understanding that his defiance of Western interests makes him a target, but proceeding nonetheless with unwavering determination. The future of African revolution. The resurrection of Sankara's ideas through Traoré's leadership represents something historically unprecedented: the successful transmission of revolutionary consciousness across generations in post-colonial Africa. Thomas Sankara Speaks has become more than a historical document. It's a living guide for contemporary liberation struggles. The implications extend far beyond Burkina Faso. If Traoré successfully implements Sankara's vision, While avoiding his predecessor's fate, it could trigger a continental awakening that fundamentally alters Africa's relationship with the global order. The book's ideas, filtered through contemporary realities, might finally find their historical moment. The ghost of revolution has indeed returned to Burkina Faso. But this time, it carries the wisdom of experience and the urgency of survival. In Ibrahim Traoré, Thomas Sankara's voice has found not just an echo, but an amplification that threatens to shatter the silence imposed by decades of neo-colonial control. The revolution that began in 1983 may have found its true heir in 2022, and the world is watching with anticipation and terror at what comes next. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more.